It was a quiet evening in Jerusalem, just hours before everything would change forever. The disciples, a small group of fishermen, tax collectors, and ordinary men who had followed Jesus for 3 years, walked through the narrow, lamplit streets. They were heading to a small upper room, a borrowed space, for what they thought was just another Passover meal with their teacher. They had no idea this night would echo through history. As they gathered around the long, simple table, the air was filled with quiet conversation, the soft glow of oil lamps casting long shadows on the walls. Jesus knew his time was short. He knew this would be his final meal with his closest friends, his chosen family. He wanted to give them something to hold on to, a memory that would anchor them in the storm that was about to break. This wasn't just any dinner. It was a meal steeped in centuries of tradition. Yet Jesus was about to fill it with a brand new, profound meaning. On the table lay the customary Passover elements, unleavened bread and cups of wine. But as the disciples ate, Jesus took a loaf of bread. He held it in his hands, looked up to heaven, and gave thanks. Then he broke it. The sound was simple, yet it signified something monumental. He passed the pieces to them, saying, "Take, eat, this is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." The disciples took the bread, perhaps confused, but obedient. They were eating a symbol of the sacrifice he was about to make. A little later, he took a cup of wine. He held it up and said, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins. Drink from it, all of you." He was offering them a promise, a new relationship with God, sealed not with the blood of an animal sacrifice, but with his very own life. This simple act of eating and drinking became an ordinance, a sacred moment to be repeated by his followers for thousands of years to come, a constant reminder of his ultimate act of love. As they continued to eat, the mood in the room shifted. Jesus looked at his friends, his expression turning somber, and he spoke words that sent a chill through the air. "Truly, I tell you," he said, "one of you will betray me." A wave of shock and disbelief washed over the disciples. Betray him? Impossible. One by one, they began to question, their voices filled with anguish and confusion. "Is it I, Lord?" Pete asked. "Surely not I," said John, who was leaning against Jesus. They looked at each other, suspicion and fear creeping into their hearts. Who could it be? They were his inner circle, those who had left everything to follow him. Amidst the turmoil, Judas Iscariot, the one who held the group's money bag, also asked, "Is it I, Rabbi?" Jesus' quiet reply confirmed the terrible truth, a truth Judas already knew in his heart. He had already made a deal, a secret arrangement to hand Jesus over to the authorities for 30 pieces of silver. The betrayal was no longer a future possibility. It was a present reality, sitting right there at the table with them. Then, in the midst of this heavy atmosphere of betrayal and impending sorrow, Jesus did something utterly astonishing. He stood up from the table, laid aside his outer garments, and tied a towel around his waist. He poured water into a basin and knelt down. He began to wash the disciples' feet. One by one, he went around the room, performing the duty of the lowliest servant. When he came to Peter, the ever-impulsive disciple protested, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet? You will never wash my feet." Jesus looked at him with gentle patience and replied, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." In that moment, Jesus taught them a powerful lesson without a long sermon. He showed them that true greatness in his kingdom isn't measured by power, status, or authority. It's measured by humility, by willingness to serve others, to put their needs before your own. He was modeling a radical kind of leadership, a leadership based on love and selfless service. After he had washed all their feet, he put his clothes back on and asked them, "Do you understand what I have done for you? Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you." Before the night was over, Jesus gave them one final, crucial instruction. It was the centerpiece of his entire teaching, the command that would define his followers for all time. He looked at them with an intensity born of deep love and said, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another." This wasn't a suggestion. It was a commandment. And it wasn't just any kind of love. It was a sacrificial, forgiving, and relentless love modeled after his own. It was a love that would lay down its life for a friend, a love that would serve even a betrayer. This command was their new identity, their banner, the mark that would set them apart in a world often driven by selfishness and hate. It was the legacy he was leaving them, the very heart of his message. Jesus and his disciples sang a hymn together, their voices filling the small room one last time. Then they rose from the table and walked out into the cool night air, heading towards the Garden of Gethsemane on the Mount of Olives. The darkness that met them outside the door was a foreshadowing of the darkness that was about to descend. The Last Supper wasn't merely the end of a meal. It was the beginning of a promise. It marked the transition from the old covenant to the new. It was a final moment of intimacy before the suffering, and a beautiful declaration that through Jesus' ultimate sacrifice, a path to forgiveness, healing, and eternal hope would be opened for all of humanity. It was a promise that even in our darkest nights, a new dawn is coming. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories of faith and hope.